Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's talk and demonstration as part of our online festival 2021. We have Lisa Fearn, who's going to give us a demonstration tonight, and I'd like to pass over to Alan Cook, who's going to introduce her.
Yes, good evening all. Great to see you all on such a lovely evening. Lisa Fearn lives about 4 miles outside Carmarthen in a place called Her Shed. I don't think I need to translate Her Shed into English, but she lives in Her Shed. She has run a cookery school there for the last 12 years. She does cookery schools for children, for young adults, and for more mature people, and even assesses people for the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. So there will be 2 images on your screen at various times. So you should be able to see Lisa cooking and also close-ups of what she's doing. Lisa's happy to answer questions while she's cooking. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, and you will have to move your cursor to do it, you will see a mute button at the very corner. That works in reverse, because when it says mute, it means that if you click on it, you will mute. And when you are muted, it will say, there will be a red line through it and will say unmute. So if you can unmute yourself if you want to say anything, and then remute yourself so we don't get a lot of background chat, which could be very distracting. Anyway, here she is, Lisa Fearn. Lisa, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. So as you explained, Alan, and thank you for your welcome, I'm going to be speaking to that camera, okay? So if you want to sort of watch me from a distance, it'll be that one. But we also have a camera set up at my hands here, so you can hopefully, and I'm just wondering what that is already. See, when you see things, the camera catches things. And I'm working in reverse here now, so I can't see. There's something on this on here. I can't see what it is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You can see exactly what I'm up to. So what I've got for you tonight is something that's quite nice and seasonal and easy. I love to cook. I love cooking for my family, and when the house is tidy and I've got some free time, I will then decide to go and bake something for myself. So I love being in the kitchen. But that said, I don't want to spend hours and hours over a very, very laborious recipe that includes loads of ingredients. And if there's one thing I hate, it's a recipe that has an endless list of ingredients that you really don't know which ones you can actually leave in and leave out, or put in and leave out, and what you can substitute. So Alan was asking me earlier, am I one of these that has to have everything, you know, so? I am very much a throw it in cook. I'm one who opens the fridge and thinks, what can I make with this? But that said, it's sometimes nice to have a few ideas about sauces and dressings and how to lift your meal from a certain level to a different level, another level. And that's where hopefully tonight will become useful. I said I'd focus on vegetables, but I have bought some nice salmon with me tonight to sort of add, but obviously, and we'll come to this later, when I say salmon, it could be a pork chop, it could be a chicken breast, it could be whatever your favourite meat is, or indeed it could be just the vegetables, because I think they speak loudly for themselves anyway. To go with every meal, I think is wonderful, and if you're having friends over, nothing beats actually having homemade bread. So I'm just going to show you a really quick recipe. I've got my glass bowl here because you can see inside, and I'm going to put in 600 grams. No, I haven't weighed it out. I'm just going to assume that that's about 600 grams. If you really want to have some fun in the kitchen, guess it, then pop it on the scales. I'm not going to bother tonight, but you can just pop it on the scales and see how close you are. But it's not precise. You know, when some recipes are precise, baking is not one of them. I don't think, not bread anyway. Cakes maybe, not so much the bread. To about 600 grams of flour, strong flour, by the way. Strong flour has a large percentage of, well, I say large, 12% in fact, of gluten, which is the protein that you find in wheat, and that enables the dough to become nice and strong and elastic and allows it to trap the air bubbles inside. We're going to add a teaspoonful of salt, and we're going to add a teaspoonful of yeast. Now I use this ready bake yeast. You can use fresh yeast, about 9 grams of fresh yeast. I like this stuff because it lasts in the cupboard for months. This is a new pot, so I'm going to open it. Lasts in the cupboard for months. It comes with a nice little plastic lid on it. If you're going to buy it, make sure you buy the green one. The green one can go straight in. If you buy the yellow pack, that needs to go into water with a little sugar first to activate it, so that you can, so it becomes active before you pop it in. Now, normally I use a full-on proper teaspoon measure, but I haven't got one out here tonight. So I'm just going to use a big teaspoon, okay? Don't use a little coffee spoon, you won't have enough yeast. A nice big teaspoonful of yeast, and just a little bit for good measure, okay? And then we're going to add about 350 mils of water, tepid water, lukewarm water. First, I'm going to add a glug of olive oil. Traditionally, of course, being in Wales, we would have had a nice farmhouse loaf. We'd have used butter instead of oil. We'd have used milk instead of water. So this is a slightly more focaccia style loaf, and I'll show you in a second how we're going to finish it off. For those of you who, if you're like me, I haven't got one here now. I've got a measuring jug actually. If you've got one of those plastic ones that's been in the dishwasher for about 45 years, and it's all gone sort of all sandblasted effectively, and you can't see it, and it means you're looking at it and you can't quite work it out, or you need to get these on to actually see it, okay? What a hassle. Easiest way to measure 350 mils, pop it on the scales, pop the scales on, and weigh 350 grams. When you've got 350 grams, you know you've got 350 mils, because that's how it works. Okay, takes the hassle out of it. And in fact, I would have put this whole bowl on there and added the water straight in, except that this glass bowl weighs a lot, and I don't think my little scales are up to it. Okay, so that's the quickest and easiest way of getting 350 mils, and that just goes in. Problem, I didn't weigh out my flour, so I might need more, I might need less, but that's not a problem. We can work with that, and then I'm going to get a shortish spoon to stir the whole thing. And this, when it comes together to form a dough, might need to drop more water. You want a nice wet dough, not sticky, but definitely not dry. If it's dry, the little yeast, when it becomes activated and warm and well watered and happy, it starts breathing. And if you all, we can do a bit of relaxation here. Take a deep breath in. Hold it for a second, and what do you need to do next? Take a deep breath out, okay? That's exactly what the little yeast is going to do. It's called respiration, respiring, breathing, and it's going to breathe out carbon dioxide. And when it breathes out carbon dioxide, the intention is that we trap it in our dough. And then we will have what's called a nice rise. It's going to prove, if you struggle to remember the word prove, just remember it's got to prove that it's there, prove that it's alive, that it's active, and that's all. So I've added a drop of too much water, so what do? Add a little bit more flour back, okay? Then what we're going to do, a little bit of flour on the surface. This is where I hope I don't dust my laptop down with flour, okay? And I'm going to tip it out. And you can see it's like I like my porridge, believe it or not. I like my porridge quite firm. I don't like sloppy porridge. I know a lot of people do, not my style. But what we're going to do then is scrape off the extra dough off the spoon. Pop it out of the way. My grandmother used to say, "Dod a hibo, paid i lawr, dod a hibo." Don't put it down, put it away, okay? And that way you don't end up with a big mess. I'm using my fingertips at the moment just to turn the dough and rotate it and turn it over to lose that stickiness, okay? Once I've done that, you can start sort of folding it just to make sure. I don't like dirty, sticky hands, so I'm just making sure it's lost that sticky stage. And then I'm going to move to the back of my hands, the heels of my hands, and I'm going to start folding and pushing. I'm going to knead my dough like this. If it's a nice dough, as it strengthens, as that gluten is stretched and worked, it'll become less sticky. If you need to add a little bit of flour, that's fine too, but just don't add too much, a little at a time, because you don't want to dry it out at this stage. Once you've got it to a nice moist, sticky-ish, but not quite dough, you don't then want to add masses of flour to dry it out to make it absolutely solid again, because those little bubbles of carbon dioxide breathed out by the little yeast need to be trapped in here. And what we're doing now, we're working that gluten. Think of them as little muscle fibers. We're working them and stretching them, giving them a bit of a workout. And that makes them nice and elastic so that when the bubbles are released, they can trap the bubbles and expand like little balloons. Those of you who watch the Bake Off, if they say it's overproved, what they mean is that each one of those little bubbles in the bread, in the proved bread, has expanded and expanded. And once it gets to a certain point, there's no strength left and it pops, okay? And that's when it deflates and you lose your nice rise. Now then, so if you've got a very scruffy, messy piece of dough like that, what I'm now going to do is start to tidy it up. Bring the bottom to the top and rotate slightly, bottom to the top. And what I'm doing, I'm stretching the underside so that eventually, once you've gone round a few times and stretch the bottom, when you turn it over, tuck the edges in, you end up with a nice round ball of dough. Can you see that? That now needs to rest a little. The yeast has been worked, the gluten's been worked, and it needs to just chill, take its time for about 45 minutes to an hour, somewhere warm, and it'll just start rising, proving. What I do, I tend to put it back in the bowl, put a little bit of oil underneath, extra oil, that's good. Okay, and we're going to pop it in, give it a little turn, and then we're going to do a bit of a blue beater. I'm going to take the tea cloth off this one, damp tea cloth, shower cap, by the way, works a treat, shower cap over the top, keeps the moisture in, keeps the cold air out, and it gives the yeast the perfect environment. Pop it somewhere warm if you've got somewhere warm, like in on top of a radiator or something like that. And this is one I've made earlier. Where do I need to put it? Like that. Now you can see this is quite bouncy. This is full of air. And if I tip it out, come on. There we go. Okay, the thing's stuck in the bowl. You can see that, okay? And this is the underside. You can see all the little bubbles. I've got my white doughy hands. I'm just going to turn it over. This is a granary loaf, okay? So instead of 600 grams of plain white, I added 300 of white and I did 300 of granary flour. And that way you get the lightness of the white and you get the granary, the seeds of the granary flour. So a little bit of flour underneath. And what we're going to do now, it sings and it's happy. Happy dough sings. As you squeeze the air out, it makes little sounds. A little bit of flour over the top. And I'm going to roll it slightly. Because what we're going to make is a picture focaccia. Any of you are on Instagram, you might have seen these. If you go on my Instagram, Lisa Ann Fearn, you'll see a little reel, a little video I did putting one of these together. So we're going to try and keep that one nice and round. You can make square ones, oblong ones, whatever. Okay, and what we're going to do, we need to pop that on a tray straight away. Now I did bring a variety of trays with me. Where's it gone? We'll use one of these. Okay, so pop it on a tray, an oven tray. Okay, and we're going to add some extras. So first of all, if you add them to that, they're not going to stick. So what we're going to do, we've got an egg wash here. These are my home laid eggs. You can see how orange they are. Beautiful colour, not necessarily the best thing for an egg glaze actually. Lovely in sponges and poached eggs, but a little bit orange for this, but it'll disappear when we cook. Okay, so we just cover it. When I teach the kids, I say this is my edible glue because it allows everything to stick. You use oil or water, it looks sticky, you add your toppings, and believe me, in the oven they dry and everything pops off and you've got an oven full of seeds and bits and bobs on the bottom. So cover it all over like that. And then this is where you can become a little bit artistic. So I have got somewhere a load of herbs. There we go, some herbs. So what I'm going to do, and chives from the garden. Now I've been a bit lazy with my chives this year. Normally I cut them back straight away so I can actually get fresh chives, but these have gone to flour. I can show you down there. So what we're going to do is just start creating. The scissors helps here, so you can trim everything back to the right width and height. Okay, so we're going to use the flowers. They're even prettier, by the way, when they're actually in flower. Let's put those two together. And then I got some lemon balm. So we're going to pop a little lemon balm on, and if you flatten the leaves out, you can leave some as little sprigs and others like that. I've got chopping board gone. I've got some rosemary. Some rosemary. So don't put the individual stalks, put them as little trees. Okay, but you can prick off some side branches and pop those on as well, like this. So you can use all your greenery. I had some, actually, I think I've used it now. Yeah, I had some of the big bronze fennel as well. I've got basil, we can do some of that. Whatever you've got in the garden, just go for a walk and start picking. And also, if you're like me and you haven't done your reading, some people don't like me saying this, do you think forget-me-nots are weeds or not? I think everybody's split on that one. And I've got, where have I got? Here we go. So I've got some forget-me-nots. Forget-me-nots are totally edible. Okay, so we can pop those. The last thing you want to do, by the way, is put things that are not edible on. So don't go picking dangerous, especially. But just Google what's edible. You'll find that these little blue forget-me-nots are. Also, violas, totally edible. So we can pop some of those. So I'm going to just put these on randomly because I think they look pretty like that. And I'll show you one I made earlier. Some little blue flowers. The other thing you can add, of course, are things like cherry tomatoes and olives. They look really pretty. I've still got doughy hands, so they're sticking to a few things here. There we go. So also things like this. We've got a little cherry tomato here, so we can just cut that one. Put it into 3. Anybody's got any questions, by the way, fire away. I'm quite happy to answer. So you can also pop on some tomatoes to make maybe a sun. And you can add some seeds. I've got some olives. I was very organised. I put everything where they should be. And then I sort of move things around. Alan said, make sure you know where you put everything. And here we are thinking, where are they? And the other thing I've got actually are some dried flowers. And last summer I dried some cornflowers and I dried, what was it, the viola, obviously, that I've just used. Marigolds, calendula, not all the marigolds, but the English marigold. So these are some little cornflower. Some borage flowers are beautiful as well. If you press them, you can save them for the next year. Rose petals are edible, and fruit blossom flowers. So if you've got any apple blossom at the moment, so these are little, oh, I can smell the rose on there, little rose petals. And so you can just pretty up your bread like that. Let it prove then for about half an hour before you pop it in the oven. So that would go in the oven at about 180 for about half an hour. So if I can turn that around, you can possibly see the little picture we've drawn there, which is really pretty. All edible, of course, so you can just cook it. They don't look quite as vibrant as that when you cook it, unfortunately. So I've got one here, like I put earlier. Let's pop that one out of the way. And here's one I made earlier. Okay, so you can see this time I made sort of a row of the viola at the bottom, the lemon balm. We've got some fennel, some bronze fennel in here, some olives, tomatoes, the little cornflower flowers, some flat leaf, no it wasn't, it was coriander, the chives, you can see how they are. Okay, but it's really just it's a decorative thing, it's really nice. And depending on what you've got, and if you sort of don't, if you lower the temperature slightly, they might not get quite as brown. And if I just open, if I just take this and grab I've got my chopping board. Let's pop this on. There you go. I can make some space. I'll just show you the crumb inside. The important thing with bread is get a serrated knife. Don't try and hack into it with even a sharp normal knife. Get a serrated knife and let your bread cool to start with. I'm just going to wash my hands. Let the bread cool, because as the bread cools, the crumb structure is sort of becoming a little bit more firm. If you've got a very newly baked loaf and you squeeze a knife into it, the crumb structure is so fresh that you just squeeze the air out of the little pockets, and it becomes like a raw dough basically. So it needs time to sort of cook in its own heat, and then take a sharp knife and a sawing action, so that you're breaking through it rather than crushing on those little air bubbles. So if you just cut through that like that, I can show you sort of the inside, all the little air bubbles. Little drizzle of olive oil over the top. If you like a bit of heat, add a bit of chili oil over the top, and there you go, your picture focaccia. And where's my... So that's an easy way of creating a lovely atmosphere and a lovely smell in the house when you've got visitors come in. So on to our main course. Any questions about that, by the way? Pop them in that box down the bottom, and Alan, I'm sure will let me know if you've got any questions. And then I'm going to do it like grandmother said, and tidy as we go, and then I'll have a nice tidy kitchen at the end. This, by the way, is the cookery school we're in now, called A Shed, which is the shed. And the reason it's called A Shed is because it was an old cowshed, and we just always refer to it as the shed. And when it came to naming the cookery school, when we relocated, it was a matter of what should we call it? What should we call it? We couldn't come up with anything. And then we thought, well, do you know what? We called it a shed for so long. Let's carry on calling it a shed. And that's what we did. So I'm going to make a little warm salad now. We call it a salad, but that scares people off. So we call it roast vegetables. I'm going to do 2 different salads, a warm salad, a roast vegetable salad, and a cold salad to go with our roast salmon. Okay, we're going to start with the warm salad, and I've got here a variety of vegetables, as you can see, vegetables and fruit. And fruit, more fruit, peppers are fruit, sweet potato, but it could also be one of these, the butternut squash, okay, interchangeable. Anything that needs butternut squash or sweet potato, you can swap them around. They're pretty, or pumpkin in fact, I think of them as the same thing. Some normal potatoes, carrots, parsnips, the usual kind of things that you would roast, maybe in a more autumnal tray bake, okay. And what I've done, I've popped those in here and I've started the process. So here you can see I also added some corn on the cob, which are now ready. Okay, so I'm going to take those out, those 4. So I've got some potatoes in here, I've got some butternut squash, some sweet potatoes, some carrot, lots of orange and parsnip in there. So what I want to do, I just want to release these from the bottom of the tin, give a little sprinkling of sea salt, and that was it. Okay, so what I want to do now, this is maybe 20 minutes in. So imagine if I just chopped all these and popped them in the oven. 20 minutes in, take them out, and this is where you can start adding all the other bits and bobs. So I've got some broccoli here. I'm going to take the floret or the flower off the top, okay, and I'm going to chop the stems or just pop them in separate. Because then when it comes to serving, it's a lot easier to serve. I've got purple sprouting broccoli. I've got some of this growing, well, actually I've just harvested the last of it from last summer. It's a late sort of winter purple sprouting broccoli. So they were ready, sort of have been ready for weeks. And I've just been gradually harvesting them. They don't take long, that's why I'm adding them now. And some cherry tomatoes. Let's add a little bit more of that. And this is where I'm going to add just a little bit of rosemary, whatever you've got really in the garden. And I'm going to add some red pepper. So I've done the potatoes and carrots, so they can disappear. It's quite unnerving, you know, having a demonstration via Zoom, because I don't see any of you. I can see your faces actually if I go down to the screen here. I don't hear anything. So when I've got people in the room, I can see people's reactions, but I'm not seeing anybody. It's quite bizarre. I feel like a bit of a mad person talking to myself in a big room. So I'm taking the majority of that pepper off. That can go in the compost. We take off the white pith. Okay, that's quite bitter. Oops, that's quite bitter. And then I'm not going to cut them too small, because again, the higher in sugar, of course, these vegetables or fruit are, the quicker they cook, and if they caramelise as the sugar cooks, and that can easily lead to them looking quite charred and burnt. And then we're just going to add those in, a bit of colour, and I'm going to add a little drizzle of a squeeze of lemon on top of them at this point. Lemon is almost like salt, it sort of brings out that natural flavour, and it's sort of so good on the tongue. And some garlic. Now, there's a few ways of doing garlic. I don't know whether I have it here. I've got it here. If you really have no time, garlic granules are amazing. All you do, open them up, open the sprinkle side, not the big side, and just sprinkle a little bit on. And that's it. It's so quick and easy. If you've got a little more time, lovely big chunks of garlic here. The cloves are nice and large. This one, however, oh, this is just so lovely. I love it. Smoked garlic. Okay, a little bit more expensive. If you can't be bothered with the cost of smoked garlic, I certainly do suggest that what you do is pop all this in some foil, wrap it around with some foil. You can add a little drop of oil if you want to, and roast it for 25 minutes in the oven. When it comes out, the garlic is turned to a sort of a garlic pulp, and you can literally squeeze each clove, and out will come the most delicious and aromatic garlic, which is cooked, which means it's a lot more, well, I think it's gentler somehow, and I think it's also probably gentler on the digestion as well. It's certainly a much sweeter garlic. So I'm just going to add a few pieces of garlic in there. If you want to, I would still take the paper off, but you can add the whole garlic cloves whole, and then it's up to you whether you eat them. Very good for you. Good for the blood pressure. Great for some of you, for the immunity. Some of you, at the moment, given what's happening, you just pop the whole cloves in. You can either take them out, or later on, as I said, you can just squidge them a little bit between your fingers, and that will give you a more sort of cooked, tender garlic. Now that needs to go in the oven for about another 10-15 minutes, okay, but with maybe a drizzle of oil over the top, especially over the broccoli, just to make sure they're a little bit moist so that they don't char and become too dry and burnt. Also, another nice thing to add, I added some cherry tomatoes there, but you can add the whole vine, a little vine of cherry tomatoes in like that. They look really, really pretty. And what we're going to do when it's ready, I'm just going to cut these. You go down as low as you can. I know it seems like a pointless task. I know some of you thinking, why doesn't she just buy a tin of sweet corn? Believe me, roasted, and then you get these huge chunks, and if you're lucky, you can get all that to yourself. It's so nice. Because they're roasted, they're sort of dehydrated slightly, and as a result, they're so tasty and so sweet. And I do this sometimes, and I walk away to do something else in the kitchen, and if my kids are around, half of it disappears. They just come with these large chunks, and they take them straight away and consume very, very readily. Right, so I've got a bowl here. So I'm not ready to put these in now because these have been cooked once. So what I want to do is just add these at the end as a little bit of some lovely sweet additions. Okay, so this is ready for the oven, but my oven is all the way over there. So before I make a journey to the oven, I'm going to leave that for a second. I'm just going to show you how we're going to prepare where have I put it? I've got salmon here somewhere, ready to go. Here it is. What I try and do is prepare everything in advance on a tray with a recipe, just in case I go blank. I have a sort of a brain fog moment. I've got something to look at. So what I've got is my recipe, not that I usually follow it, but I've got some lovely fresh salmon fillets there. I've got an orange, ginger, onions, cherry tomatoes. Now, as I said, I tend to do what I like. But one thing I do not like is dirty, roast, fishy tins. Okay? The first thing I'm going to do is line my tins with foil. The salt of scrubbing tins is not delightful. So the foil is in, a little drizzle of olive oil, or any vegetable oil, Okay, I don't always use olive oil. It's just a bit of a hassle. I've got loads of different oils. I'm going to pop the salmon in. Now you can do these individually, which is also quite nice because then you can actually serve the little portions on out of the foil stroke parchment. You can do this in parchment paper as well. Okay, but I'm just making sure there's oil underneath so they don't totally stick. And another thing, talking about oil, I've got a few different oils here. I've got truffle oil, I've got avocado oil somewhere as well. I mean, you can, and sesame oil is a big favourite of mine. There it is, toasted sesame oil. Usually more of a dressing than anything else. But we're going to go down the Asian route here anyway. So I'm going to add just teeny weeny, very, very strong flavour. So intense. If you make stir fries regularly and you're thinking, why doesn't my stir fry why isn't it quite like, you know, you get, so why doesn't it taste authentic? Drizzle sesame oil over the top at the end. Amazing. And then into that, talking of garlic, we've got the dried garlic I showed you, we've got the actual garlic. This is incredible as well, okay? I found these last week. Garlic cloves in a herb marinade, okay? So, no work whatsoever. We can just pick these out. I'm going to put them on my tray there. Like that, we go with 3. And then we will just finally chop. By the time everything is cooked, and these are already marinated, so they're really super soft, okay? We'll just pop a few in like that. Put a bit of sweet on there as well. Ginger, I'm just going to take a little piece off. I'm using a spoon. I'm going to scrape off the skin. It's actually easier using a spoon than it is to use a knife, by the way, and you don't waste any. I know it's not expensive anyway, but seriously, it does come off. And the edge of the spoon seems to somehow just get around all those little knobbly bits. And if you think, by the way, I'm throwing all these waste pieces on the floor, they're going in my compost bin, okay? And then we're just going to again take a few slices. If you don't like garlic or ginger, just leave it out. So we're going to go as fine as we can. Once we've got it reasonably fine, we can just take the knife through it one more time. Together, scrape off the knife, and again. And then the advantage of these sort of samurai swords, as I call them, our Japanese knives, where we can lift it all up on the knife from the blade and then sprinkle it on. Okay, just wash my hands. Now then, so what we're going to do next, we are going to go and done sesame oil. I'm going to do, I've got somewhere, some soy sauce on top, so therefore we don't need to add any salt because that is salty in itself. You can add some lemon if you want to, but the ginger, the garlic, the soy is a lovely combination. And then in with those, we're just going to add a few cherry tomatoes. The juices sort of steam and help the whole fish to cook. I'll add some lovely juices. Maybe a little red pepper would be nice. So we'll just go for some nice thin pieces. As well. Maybe a nice yellow one would have been nice there as well, actually. And then last but not least, we're going to go with a piece of orange. Now I'm going to put orange, squeezed orange and orange pieces in today. But a little tip for you, I'm not a big fan of it myself, so I don't have any in the house at the moment, but if you've got any marmalade, I tell you, just marmalade on top of this, smear it on, warm it in the microwave if you want to, a little bit to start with, to make it a little bit runnier. Squeeze any bits left. A little drop of, or just brush on the marmalade onto your salmon. And it's really, really, really nice. So there you go. Like that. And then we can fold this over, or just to make sure I don't tear over the top, like that. And then round the edges. And then this goes in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes, obviously depending on the thickness of your salmon fillet. What you want to do is make sure that you crunch the edges enough so you don't lose any moisture. And there you have it. I'm just going to go in the compost. We'll keep ginger for another day. Pop those back. And so there we have. So we're going to put the roast vegetables in to start with. We're going to put the salmon in. And you want them all basically to come out together. But you can pop the vegetables in if you want to get them ready. You can always pop them back in to warm up. So I'm going to disappear for 2 minutes while I pop these in the oven. And I'll be straight back to show you the salad. Ask your questions in the chat box. Everyone busy writing questions? How are you getting on? Any feedback? Alan's disappeared. Where's he gone?
Alan's run away now, but I'm still here, Lisa. It's Ian.
That's okay then. I thought you left me.
Our household aren't a particularly big fan of salmon. I was wondering if this would work with sort of one of the kind of stronger white fish, the kind of firmer white fish. Would that work with what
it
you've
would work perfectly. Yeah, you could use some cod in there, some cheaper pollock, but equally you could even use chicken breast. Maybe slice the chicken breast up into pieces so they're not quite so thick, almost goujon size, and then just pop them in there with exactly the same ingredients. And they'll be just, you could even pan fry the chicken strips with all those same ingredients until they become really sticky, sort of soy sticky ginger chicken pieces, and they would work equally as well.
Anne's messaged in the chat and asked, what temperature is that oven on? What temperature does all those?
About 180. And if you're going to ask me what that is in gas, I'd say probably about 4, but I'm not an expert on gas, I have to confess. Anybody else with anything they need to know about?
Lisa, do you ever use courgettes in the vegetable mix?
You can use courgettes in a vegetable mix, but what I would suggest is that you do your hard root vegetables first, so your carrots, parsnips, sweet potato, butternut squash, those sort of things. Then you add your cherry tomatoes, peppers, broccoli sort of things. And then maybe at the same time, if you cut them nice and chunkily, but if not, add the courgettes last, because they do tend to go quite sloppy very quickly. And I don't think a soggy courgette isn't really up to much. You just really want to heat it through. So I'd add that right at the end. So what we've done so far, we've done our roast vegetables and we've prepared our salmon. I'm trying to think now what we could do next. There's a few things about salad. We'll move on to the salad actually, because I can mention a few things as we do so. And what I've done here, I've already put the ingredients that I'm going to use together. And I think that's important because even if you're cooking on your own at home, you can forget, especially with things like salad, because you can go to the salad drawer and you can get your cucumber and your tomatoes and your lettuce and your bits and bobs, and you don't necessarily remember all the extra things you can add. So what I've done here, I've thought of what I want to do. Broccoli is the star here, raw, believe it or not. I found this reduced today in our local veg shop, fruit and veg shop, a pomegranate. I hope it's okay on the inside. An apple, some lemon for flavour, some dressing ideas there, and again some red pepper and some pine nuts. Nuts and seeds add a heck of a lot to salads, not even just flavour and texture, but nutrition-wise as well. So if you're, for instance, going to go down a lot of people did veganuary, didn't they? Or you want to go down the route of just eating more salads over the summer, maybe reducing the amount of meat, which a lot of people are doing at the moment, not necessarily becoming vegetarian, but just reducing the number of days that they eat meat, or eating a meat-free meal every day. Or, you know, there's lots of different ways of reducing meat for health reasons, for the environment, whatever. But adding nuts and seeds and pulses are therefore important for the nutrition side of things. So I've got, where did I put my knife? I've lost my knife. Those of you who are wondering, why can't you find anything? This is not my normal kitchen. I'm in the cookery school, and more than that, I'm not even in my kitchen. I'm in the coffee bar area, which I thought I would make into a sort of little set, not just for you for tonight, but generally speaking, because here the acoustics are a bit better, and it looks a little bit like my kitchen at home. I think a lot of people, when we moved into this a shed, when we left the house, when I first started the business, let's go back a stage, it was in our house. The kids were about, I think my youngest was 4. I got 5 children. So my youngest was 4. So it was 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12. It's nice and easy. I started a business because I thought I had a bit of time on my hands. I'm going to tell you the story while I'm chopping my broccoli, okay? Because it's not exciting chopping broccoli. So I started the business, and I had a class on a Thursday night after school, and I had a class on a Saturday morning. And for a long, long time, I thought of doing this, but I thought, oh, we've got this old cowshed, but I haven't got the money to renovate it. And a friend came down from Reading, and I told her what I'd like to do, you know, get back into work somehow, because I'd had loads of years out looking after the children. I'd been in banking before that, and then trained as a teacher. And she said, well, you say your kitchen is not large enough, start in the kitchen. And I thought, oh my gosh, why didn't I see that? So I did. And we did that for probably 10 years. And then I eventually applied for a grant to renovate the cowshed, which is where we are tonight. And that was, we moved in on the 1st of August 2019. Then, of course, you know, COVID hit, and everything's been a bit difficult ever since. And we're just about opening up the cookery school now again for the 3rd time, no, 2nd time. We had lockdown 1, then the fire break, and then we never reopened actually. And so we're reopening for the 2nd time. So you can sell the broccoli, by the way. So yeah, so I started in the house, but the family's in the house, and it was a bit inconvenient really all the time to sort of keep pushing them out the kitchen. So I thought, you know what, we move down here for tonight. But what I was going to say was, when we first moved here, everybody said, oh, but we like your kitchen. My kitchen looks a bit like this. So I thought, for those people who miss my kitchen, here's a bit of my kitchen in the cookery school. Lots of killer jars full of all my bits and bobs. So it looks a little bit like home. And it means I'm not in the house and they can carry on. So what I'm making is a broccoli and red pepper. I love red peppers, but it can be yellow pepper, any colour pepper, but avoid green. Green is really, really bitter. Green is great in curry, especially if you add some sweetness alongside it. Some mango chutney or some mango or anything similar. But what I'm going to do, there's 2 ways of doing this. There's the hard way and the easy way. I'm doing it the hard way. I'm doing it by hand. But if you've got a food processor, I have got a small one here somewhere actually. I've got this teeny one. This would work perfectly well, okay? But you probably want to do your broccoli once, and then you put your red pepper and do it that way. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do it by hand. So you want to sort of get everything fairly small, not too large. Not that it matters really, but it's basically, think coleslaw, but without any of the ingredients of your classic coleslaw. So we've got our red peppers, we've got the broccoli. Once you've done this, there's no harm, by the way, in just taking a knife through it and just cutting it haphazardly, just to make it a little bit smaller. An apple. Lots of people forget about introducing things like fruit of this nature. They're not apples and oranges into their salad. I'll never forget taking the kids out once to a chain restaurant when they were little. And there was a big question, how many of the 5 children wanted the side salad? And I said, who wants salad with their burger? And eventually I think half of them did. But when the salad came, there was half a piece of cucumber, a horrendously small, wilty piece of lettuce, and half a cherry tomato. And I thought, seriously, all the fuss over that for a salad? No wonder people don't like salad if that's what we serve in the UK. So I'm just going to chop our apple, and then I've got these pine nuts, and that's going to lead me on nicely to what I'm about to say next, which is with all of these sort of salads, the dressing and the garnish makes the dish. So I'm going to pop my hob on here, and I'm going to pop my pine nuts in. The pine nuts go in a dry pan, no oil needed. And we're just going to toast them. Okay, so we just leave them there. Not obviously, don't walk away, but we're going to leave them there to actually toast. We'll get ourselves a wooden spoon. And whilst we're on the topic, and while that happens, I can also show you things like sesame seeds. Okay, sesame seeds, a lovely garnish. These are delicious. Pumpkin seeds. Okay, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, flax seeds. I've got some lovely flax seeds here. Oh, this is a mix actually of golden and dark flax seeds. Linseeds, also same thing, different name. Okay, once it starts cooking, just give it a little shake. Let's just turn this up a little bit. But a lot of the, North African countries and places that excel in salads and that sort of thing. I think, is it Duca is the name of one. They really do, they toast their nuts, they toast their seeds, they grind them up, they add herbs, and it really lifts the dish to another level. And that's what I was talking about earlier. It's just nice to do something that's a little bit different. Let's turn it up a little bit, and while that's happening, I'm just going to get a bowl. This is an almighty bowl. Okay, so I'm just going to put our broccoli and pepper and apple in there and wait for our sesame, our pine nuts to cook. I've got lemon. So I'm going to add the juice of the lemon. We're going to add it straight on top of the apple, which will stop it browning. Of course, the whole lemon. Keep giving your pan a little shake, just to keep them moving. And then some cider vinegar, honey, and mustard. So here we've got some, this is actually white wine vinegar, cider vinegar. If you want to measure it, that's fine. A dressing is generally 3 parts oil to 1 part acid, but it does depend on your taste, and you will need to taste it. So we've got, that's the oil. We've got some mustard here. So we're going to pop. Like that. Let's get some mustard. So a good tablespoonful of mustard. And then a little drizzle of honey for sweetness. When you've got any dish, you need to satisfy all those taste buds, the sweet, the sour, the salty. What's left? There's another one. Okay. And then we'll just give it a good stir. Put everything in the acid, the honey, the mustard, and then take a little taste for something for you to actually see. I love this. This is the kind of thing you can make on Monday. Pop it in the fridge, and you can dip in until Thursday, Friday. Just keep it in, keep it chilled. It might soften slightly by the end of the 3rd, 4th day, but there's nothing dangerous in there. There's no sort of high-risk foods, and just keep really nicely. You've got the perfect packing food, or perfect for kids' lunch boxes or your lunches. Goes nicely with all sorts of things: chicken, fish, you name it, it goes with it. Right, so there's our toasted pine nuts. It just goes slightly golden colour. Let's see, bring it down here. Okay, just going to add those on top. So while the pan is still hot, I'm going to put some of the pumpkin seeds in, and the sesame seeds. Move that to the way. And I might as well, since I've got them here, do the linseeds as well. Again, a dry pan. It just sort of cooks the oil slightly, and it makes them really nice and flavoursome. Keep moving them. You hear them popping. And just pop. Oops, you see them. Down a little, I think. Keep them moving. The pan, if you've got a good heavy solid pan as well, the pan itself will retain more of the heat. I think that's done enough. We'll pop those into a little casserole, and they are then perfect for going on top with any salads. And a little garnish while I get that pan hot. I've got some streaky bacon. We'll pop that to one side for our seeds. And then you can either do one piece of streaky bacon and use that as the garnish on top of any salad, one huge piece. Or what you can do is cut up a few pieces into small pieces, and then that can be sprinkled on as a crispy little addition to your salad. You're taking the salad from the basic either roast or cold salad into something with a little crispiness and saltiness, a bit of texture, like that. Just going to apply the small things about ready to heat back on. Just leave it there to fry. So there's your pine nut and broccoli and red pepper salad with a honey and mustard dressing, and the addition of your toasted seeds. Another little idea while that's just finishing off, in a jam jar, I've got these jam jar dressings. What we're going to do is add a little balsamic vinegar this time. Okay, so remember the rule: a third acid and then 2/3 oil. Didn't add any oil to this one, by the way, and that is a really nice non-oily dressing. Okay, so we want about 2/3. We'll just leave it there, so half and half for now. And we give that a shake. This is where we can then add again a little mustard. A little honey. So instead of adding it in like that, you can just make it as a dressing in the jam jar. Another lovely addition to this sort of oil and vinegar base is a nut butter. I have some here somewhere. When I say nut butter, I mean something like an almond butter or a peanut butter. Turn that over. Shane, you can't smell what's going on here. Then pop out a little bit of salt and pepper. Also, if you don't want to add or you want more flavour than salt, you could go down the Asian route again and add a bit of tamari or soy sauce and a bit of toasted sesame oil. We'll just keep this one simple. You don't need, you just give it a shake. You could add a little bit of salt and pepper. So obviously, if you're going down the sesame route or the tamari, which is sesame without gluten. And I don't know, I've got any pepper here actually. Wait here. Some white pepper, ground white pepper here. And then you just shake that up, and then you can keep this in the fridge, in the jar, and that's perfect for topping any of your salads. Just remember acid and oil, and then you can add any of the flavourings, as I said, mustard and honey, or sesame oil and soy sauce, or you can add garlic and ginger, any flavours that you like to it. If you want a low-fat dressing, instead of the oil, add a peach juice. So again, a peach juice, like a lemon juice or an apple juice. You can add the acid, it's lemon juice or a cider or white wine vinegar, and again you can flavour that up in exactly the same way. Those are almost ready, and that can go in the fridge, and that's our salad that we can use later. Right, how are we doing this time? They almost have to say very quickly. We'll get the vegetables back. If you've got any more questions, I can just answer those. I just won't get to the salmon and the roast vegetables, and then I'm going to whip up a very, very quick chocolate cake and show you how to decorate. So if you have any questions, scribble them in the box at the bottom, and I'm sure I am doing my best to answer for you. a bit. And just get a board. Pop it on since it's very hot. So we've got our roast vegetables. So move that into there. We've got our salmon. I'm going to leave the salmon in there until the very end because it's going to continue cooking in its own heat a little bit. We've got our roast vegetables, which I'm going to show you. And what I'm going to do with this very quickly, if you like some heat, you can add some chili flakes. Okay, to lift this again to another level, as I said, which is what we're aiming to do tonight. So we've got our roast vegetables here now. The tomatoes have gone all nice and mushy. The carrots and the potatoes are cooked through, so we're just going to loosen them from the bottom. Just to make a really nice extra something in there, I'm going to add a drop of white wine. Not much, just a little. The pan is still hot, by the way, okay? So it's going to sort of cook off the wine a little. And I've got some miso. Now, miso is fermented soya, okay? So I'm going to just scrape that off. It gives a lovely umami flavour, which is what they say the last sort of taste. It's a very earthy. If you can't imagine what it tastes like, think beetroot, you know, that sort of slightly earthy flavour. It's not for everybody, but I think done really well and subtly, which I think miso is, it adds a lovely flavour. So you add, so just tasting that now, is lovely. And then I'm just going to drizzle that over our vegetables. And it just instantly adds another flavour to them, which makes you think, never tasted a carrot that tastes quite like that before. And you don't quite know what it is, but it's there. And then just to finish that off again, what I would then do maybe is add some sesame seeds. So we've added chili flakes. I've lost my sesame seeds. I'm good at this tonight, aren't I? Well, oh, that's mustard. That's no good. Just imagine, well, we've got our toasted seeds here, so we'll use some of the toasted seeds, the pumpkin seeds, the flax, and the sesame seeds. Just a little sprinkling of those over the top, which, you know, sticks to the vegetables because of the dressing that we've just added, and that's ready then for our fish. Right, very quickly, I'm sure some of you are getting hungry now. I don't know whether you've eaten before you came, but for you, before I started even, I've got everything weighed out, ready, and this is the best way of going about it. Why? Because it's easy to forget things, if you're like me especially. So what I've got, 2 eggs, okay, I've got golden caster sugar, flour and cocoa powder, a little bit of vanilla, which even though it's a chocolate cake, it still adds that lovely background flavour, and the same weight of butter as sugar, okay? So what I'm going to do is in a bowl, I'm running out of bowls, here we go, we should use this. In fact, can you see me over here? Come here, can you see me? Yes?
Yes, yes we can, yes.
Yes, we can. Well, I've got my mixer here, so let's make it super easy. And all I'm going to do is add the caster sugar, golden caster sugar, normal caster would be fine as well, and the butter into our mixer. You can do it by hand, obviously, if you want to. And we're going to add that to the mixer here. A stand mixer is great, but actually, you know what? Even less work sometimes. Is a handheld mixer. So if you've got one of those, they're only about £15–20 maximum. I've got another one for Mother's Day, in fact. I think I paid about £15 for a Kenwood handheld mixer. It's brilliant. Much less washing up. You just pop those 2 little bits at the end, and you've got yourself cake mix without all of the hassle. And then I'm going to crack 2 eggs into a bowl. Not very well. These are our homegrown, homemade eggs. So we've got a big one and a small one. So they average a medium egg each. And they've got super duper hard shells. And so I'm just going to add that in to the mix. And if you're making a normal sponge, you usually have the same amount of flour, sugar, and butter as you do eggs. But what I do when I make a chocolate cake, I substitute some, this is 240 grams of flour, I take out about 50 grams of flour and I add cocoa powder instead. So here I have about 200 of flour, self-raising, and about 40 to 50 of cocoa powder. And that in, and then we'll scrape down the sides. Everything is mixed nicely. If you find your mixture is a little bit dry, you can add a drop of milk. And I'm going to go in a tiny, I usually use a spoon, but it just dirties a spoon. And then you can't even get all your vanilla off the spoon either. So a little drop of vanilla. Scrape down the sides. Starting to get into a little bit of a mess here. Not my usual style. I'm just aware of the time. I'm thinking we're probably all getting a bit ready to move on. So once you've mixed all the ingredients together and mix them well, divide them into 2 tins. I should leave that. Divide them into 2 tins of equal size, or in fact, you can use exactly the same mix to make cupcakes. So this is what I did about half an hour before I came live with you. I've got my 2 cakes. It's this kind of cake that cracks like that, and that's not a problem. I've used these easy liners, okay, so that I can guarantee to get it out. And there we go. And we'll get the other one. In fact, if I just, we can decorate it on that, in fact. So let's just take this one out as well. Now you can see that they've risen slightly, okay? So that's not a problem, but if you want to put one on top of the other, it leaves a bit of a funny gap, can you see? So it's not a problem. What we are going to do is get rid of the problem. So with a serrated knife, you can get wires for doing this, but a serrated bread knife does the job. Just take off the larger piece. Yeah, like that. That can become your treat or your hard work. And I've got a buttercream here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a buttercream in the middle. What I've done is added, I think it was 400 grams of icing sugar, 200 grams of a spread, not butter. I find butter a real hard job to actually get mixed in. So I tend to these days go with a vegetable spread, but a nice one that you know is of decent quality, okay? And then I'm going to put a big dollop of that in the middle. And just blend them together using the mixer. If you need to add a little bit of water as well, just the smallest amount. Go very, very slowly, just to make sure that you don't sort of make it all. And I'm just going to spread this around. Turntable's idea. You can see the cake, because I've cut the top off, the cake is slightly coming up, but it doesn't matter because this is going to be inside the cake. Okay, a bit more. Just get it all. So I prepared these in advance because obviously you need the cake to be cool. You cannot do this. I told my daughter this for years. She used to make, and she still makes the most delicious cakes and decorates them. Well, she's far better at decorating them than I am. But when she was younger, she insisted on baking the cake, making the frosting or the whatever, the whipped cream, whatever she was using, and then decorating it straight away. And she'd be ever so disappointed that the whole thing was falling apart and going lopsided. I said, you've got to let the cake cool. At least 2 hours, I would say. Even overnight isn't a bad idea. So we're pushing it right up to the edge like that, and then we're going to pop our second cake on top. We can put this on and leave it rounded, or you can actually cut it as well. I think we're going to leave this one rounded. Okay, so we're going to pop that on top. And something I did earlier as well, I had 2 bars of chocolate. I had a milk chocolate and I had a dark chocolate. So it made 200 grams of chocolate. I warmed it in a saucepan with half the amount of double cream, so 100 grams of double cream. So when the chocolate melts, it melts. When it solidifies back, it's not going to solidify hard like the chocolate was originally. It's going to go back much softer because it's got the cream inside. Okay, so I'm going to just pour this ganache on top, and I'm just going to let it drip down the sides. And in this, we've also got some chocolate chips that I've added. So you've got the addition of the lovely ganache, which is smooth, and then some chocolate chips. I could have put white chocolate chips actually, but I'm going to put some dark chocolate chips into the ganache. I'm just going to let it drip gently over the side like that to make a pretty chocolate cake. That you can add sprinkles on top. If I had some of those little viola, I should have kept some back, shouldn't I? Some little viola on top and some forget-me-nots on top. I have, however, got some of the blue little cornflowers, and I've got the rose petals, but fresh flowers. And you can also do this with double cream, nice double cream with fresh flowers is amazing as well. So we'll just decorate this with a dried variety. I should pick some more. And the more you pick with those flowers, the more they come round. And the nasturtiums also edible. So later on in the season, you can use your nasturtiums. Don't think of them as weeds. Just enjoy them and put them on everything. And they look great in salads as well. So there's our chocolate cake. I haven't got a plate. Yes, I have. So we just lift this up gently, pop it on the plate. So there's our chocolate cake with a ganache and buttercream. And last but not least, now I just want to finally open our salmon. And if I can just have 1 second to get a large plate. Plate, and we'll add some of our roast vegetables, our dressed roast vegetables. I will try take out the herbs maybe, and I'll take out the sticky, very dry rosemary pieces. Make sure you've got an equal share of the nice moist broccoli and leaf. And then we're going to open the fish parcel. It's just a matter of carefully lifting a nice piece of salmon on the top with the orange tomatoes and peppers. We're going to add a little drizzle of toasted sesame oil for that final flavour, and a little sprinkling of those toasted seeds on top. And there you have it, your orange and soy with ginger salmon and roasted vegetables. Or don't forget, you could have gone for, I've lost them, sorry of tonight, the salad. Where did I put them? I'm looking around. I can't stop them. Looking behind me. And of course, don't forget, we've got our picture for capture as well on the side, followed by chocolate cake. So I hope you've enjoyed. If you've got any questions, fire away and I'll do my best to answer.
I'm rapidly looking for hands going up, but everyone's gone mute on me this evening. You must have answered every question that there is, Lisa.
The one thing I didn't add, of course, was, do you remember the lovely sweet corn kernels, which I could have added back into the roast vegetables. Well, I hope you've enjoyed.
Yes, it's been fabulous, Lisa. I think everybody will have learned an awful lot tonight. I know we make a lot of salmon tray bakes and chicken tray bakes, but I think I've got some really good ideas now of extra things to do. So I personally would like to thank you very much for that.
Thank you. I'm looking at all the little faces. First time I've had to see them.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I can't give you a taster tonight, but you know, in the future, I can pop along to Radyr and maybe give you a little taster.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting.
Yes, Lisa, it'd be lovely to have you in Radyr, and we look forward to being able to taste the food at the end. That's where we miss out. We've been trying to pour wine down into speakers to see if we can taste wine, but we haven't got to that stage yet. But anyway, no. Thank you very much.
I know. If only you could smell it. It does really smell rather good. And I'm going to go home now, and I'm going to have this.
Unfortunately, Carmarthen is a bit far from us. So
I know. It's good for me. Anyway, thanks a lot, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Alan, before anybody go, can I just mention the rest of the festival? We've got a talk tomorrow night by Christelle on the Roman ships of Lake Nemi. I think the title perhaps doesn't quite give you the feel for the sort of talk it's going to be about, because it's going to talk about ships from antiquity to the present day, taking in Egyptian gods and pharaohs, mad Roman emperors, eccentric explorers, and early attempts at underwater archaeology. So I think it's going to be quite interesting. On Thursday evening, we have the 10 of us quiz. And if anybody's not joined but are still interested in joining, please contact Roseanne. And on Friday evening, we have online bingo. I can't tell you very much about it, but I'm told by Ian it's a whale of a time. So if people want to register for these, please do. And on Sunday, we have an actual outdoor event. We have open gardens, and this will be 4 gardens which will be opened. It's £5, and you can spend this, or you can go into any of the 4 gardens to start with and go to 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them. The money from that will go to 10 of us Cancer Care, and there will be a plant sale at one of the gardens at 11 Park Road. 10 of us Cancer Care, our charity for this year, and our talks that we're running at the moment are all free. But if you'd like to make a donation, please do so. You can do so online on the page you registered at on the festival website, or you can do it directly to the local 10 of us Cancer Care group. So thank you all very much.